morning and welcome to another Sunday morning sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X. Bing! This morning I am a skosh out of it, but I'm here. I'm gonna do this morning Ookla the Mock. I love this guy. I don't know what it is. As far as I was concerned when I was a little kid watching Thundar the Barbarian, Ookla was some kind of a fox monkey character with a steel face. I don't know if it has a metal face, but it has a gray face for no reason, none at all. And so I choose to believe that its face is made of metal. Metal. Stupid? Maybe. Also might be true. It could entirely be true. I choose that it's true. So this morning, oh, awesome. I'm gonna have him right across from this cutie. That is awesome. I love this. Like I said, a little out of it this morning. So I'm gonna do what I can. So that's the only thing we can freaking do in this world is what we can do. So, let me do this thing. There was no explanation in Thundar as to what the heck the mocks were. Not that anything like really solidly made a whole lot of sense in Thundar the Barbarian, but who cares? Ookla's fun, so we're gonna do an Ookla. Actually, we're gonna do a mock named Ookla. More like there. Actually, we're doing Ookla this morning because I couldn't figure out who to do, and my wonderful wife simply spat out the most obvious thing I could have done, which is wonderful. As a matter of fact, she's also saving me again by brewing me coffee right now because I started late. My wits seem to be a little slow this morning. I think I can zoom in a little bit here. Oh, thank you, honey.
You're welcome. And Brandon is watching.
Oh, is he?
Nephew Brandon.
Oh, hey. Hey, Brandon, how's it going?
What's up, dude?
Yeah.
Nice.
Doing the morning thing. God, I am a little slow this morning, aren't I? Whew. Thank God for bean juice. Oh, very hot bean juice. Whew. That'll wake you up.
It is fresh.
Oh, man.
Put some ice cubes in it for you, but
No.
we don't have ice cubes, and that means we have to wait a few hours, and by that time the coffee will be cool, so...
Well, that and ice cubes do two things. They give you iced coffee, which is, if that's what you want, you're good. If you, however, want hot coffee, you're in trouble. Two, it waters your coffee down, and frankly, to me, I just can't drink weak coffee. It doesn't even have the personality of like weak tea. It just tastes kind of gross at that point. Which is weird, right? I mean, no one ever, there's no such phrase as weak coffee. It's always weak tea, which is kind of an like, it's weak tea. But with weak coffee, it's just gross. I mean, I like how they gave him like little kitty ears. They're not even like lion ears. They're like little kitty ears, which is kind of awesome because he sort of looks like a kitty, lion, fox, monkey, metal-faced monster.
I, at one time as a kid, I remember staring at him, and for about a good, I want to say about 2 weeks worth of cartoon watching, I pondered whether or not those were horns.
I mean, I could see them being horns, but they're clearly like once you sort of start looking at their position and stuff, they're clearly like kitty ears. But they would almost make more sense as horns. I mean, he's a weird thing. He's a freaky, weird, freaking thing, and that's what I loved about the mocks. I wish they did more with them. There was zero explanation. They were like barbarian, lion, monkey, ape, metal-faced people with sort of a soft Chewbacca / Viking finish. I'm fairly certain they really were just stoned out of their minds when they. There we go. When they were working on this stuff, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I don't want to, say too bad about it, because it did result in a show that's like ridiculously entertaining.
I think I would like to see a cartoon version of the toys that made us. I would love to see them do something like that with a lot of the
Cartoons
that we collected.
Yeah, the cartoons that made us. Yeah. I think that's the story behind them and the creators I agree with that, because what little they did with He-Man on that was really good.
Yeah. Which I vote to rewatch the 4 episodes again because I enjoyed them a lot. I'd have to watch them again.
Oh no, I'm planning on watching them again. I just want to wait a little bit, because frankly, I don't want to get bored. I mean, it's hard to not enjoy a documentary about Barbie. And the primary things I walked out of it with it is how awful corporate America is, and the phrase underground sex dungeon. It was a documentary about Barbie, and the words underground sex dungeon was used. I'm sorry, I was kind of hooked at that point. Whether that's appropriate or not, I don't care. I was completely not expecting the words underground sex dungeon. And I know I keep saying it, but it's hard to not be like, dude, they did just say that.
That the weird sex doll chair.
Oh yeah.
The lady had that was behind her. What?
Well, it wasn't a sex doll. It was a adult doll or toy or collectible or whatever from a German adult magazine who she was like the Playboy bunny of. And it was just really funny to see that Barbie was based off of something that is so not, it's kind of a little seedy.
Oh yeah.
Which is, kind of
Right.
awesome.
Well, it's just one of those things where something, I mean, we've seen plenty of things that started out as kind of a not safe for work and brought into the public eye for everyone's usage and all. We've seen
Yeah.
plenty of examples of that, and that was just a...
Well, frankly, there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of people, we're a little too puritanical here, like in America.
It's gotten better,
And-
but we're still not very...
Oh yeah, we still got some serious repression issues. Even in people who are trying to not be repressed, we have repressed people here. And with like Barbie, that's what was kind of awesome about it. Was they're like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna take this kind of obscene kind of character and turn her into this wholesome symbol for little girls, and it was like, huh. Well, right on. You know what? I'm gonna make him just slightly more cat-like. He seems to be kind of feline-ish to me.
Yeah, I always thought he was more...
Like lionish.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, feline-ish. But on the same note, I attributed that to my penchant for liking cats more than...
Well, I like cats and apes and all sorts of creatures and stuff. And he's kind of a feline ape, or a lion ape / metal faced. I don't know what it is.
He's Ookla. He's a mock thing.
He's a mock. That's the only explanation for.
Oh, quick question from Brandon. He
Yeah.
asked, "Is the book almost full?" I think we finished that. So
Oh, the sketchbook.
yeah, that was finished.
This is actually the new Brandon and anyone else out there in TV land. This is the new sketchbook. I just got. As a matter of fact, this is my third sketch in here. The original sketchbook is filled up, and was a lot of fun actually. I was pretty happy with how quickly that got filled up. This one, I'm trying to make it look as much like the original as possible. My hope is I'm going to just be kind of doing this sort of stuff till the day I die. So hopefully there'll be many, many, many sketchbooks. But who knows, I might just get like fed up with life and start eating donuts and drinking coffee and, stop bathing. Maybe I won't, maybe I'll just disappear one day,
Oh, please don't.
I don't want to.
I kind of want you around,
Oh, I kind of want me around too.
and I kind of want you to bathe.
I also kind of want to bathe. Just
But I do wholly agree with the donuts thing. That's
the
always
donuts.
nice.
Well, donuts are good for your soul, not for the bod. Unless you want to get that chunky look, which I kind of already have. So why am I just not eating donuts every day? I don't know.
Because I want you around.
This is true. I want you around too. Except that one time.
Man, that was a crazy Yom Kippur.
That was a crazy Yom Kippur. There we go. Yeah, it's funny. I don't think I'm trying to get exactly Ookla, the original Ookla here. I'm just trying to get the spirit of it, because I really have that question in my head. What the heck is a mock? And I know that black bit around his eyes is not a mask, clearly, because he's got like black facial markings, which are kind of super awesome. It's either that or they're bizarre shadows. I mean, I don't discount that because the original show was kind of abstract and.
I kind of look at it as, like you were saying with the ape thing, it's like how orangutans have
Yeah.
the dark around there. I kind of look at
That's
it like
kind of what I think too.
and of course you remember when they went back to, when they found the village of the Mocs, the majority of them, all of them had pretty much the same look, so.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking it's like a species marking.
Yeah. You find it funny that whenever, like, even up until now, modern day stuff, they're getting a better job of portraying this. But of course, humans were all very varied and stuff. But when they did alien races or other creatures, they all look the same.
Well, I've actually heard that criticism a lot. I get onto the Dead Robot Society podcast quite a bit, and they're They're a writers group, and they'd write there's a lot of people on there that does sci-fi and that kind of thing. And that was a big discussion on one of the podcasts. And they were they were discussing the different reasons why, and it was a difficult kind of thing to come up with because it seemed like lazy writing. I mean, if you think about it, that is really, really lazy. But on the same note, you have enough people that don't understand like all this really honestly strange things you can have with an alien species. And you kind of don't want to add many layers of culture on top of it, because already they're going to show up in like 1 or 2 episodes, and you can't get into doing hundreds and hundreds of variations, or else, they might start looking like other races and blah, blah, blah because of makeup and costume and cultural stuff. And so they all just went, oh, well, maybe we just make them all exactly the same so they're easy for the audience to read. And I think that's what happened to the mocks, is they were just like, oh, they're giant cat, ape, lion, monkey, steel-faced, drooly, not drooly, growly, kind of barbarian sort of creatures, and we don't want to confuse the kids, because it was obviously a little kids show. I mean, it's not like I'm delusional. Clearly, it was a little kids show. I love Thundar the Barbarian, but it was clearly meant for kids. The funny thing is from what I understood, when it came out, they were only expecting kids to watch it, and like college students were writing the studio and going like, dude, keep going, this is really fun, Which makes sense, because it was a really wacky and wild show.
Yeah, the racing, like I said, they're within the last probably 2 or 3 years, they've been doing a better job of varying that. Because I know with Voltron, the new Voltron series, Legendary Defender, when they go to the different planets, they actually do show variation in the various sentient species that they come across, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and on the same note, they're also doing it smart enough where they're not varying it too much, so you can quickly look at them, you go, oh, right, from 2 seasons ago, these are the blank, and you don't get confused at all.
Well, it's like with humanity. I mean, we all pretty much look the same.
Yeah.
Aside from skin color, hair color, yada yada.
And even then, you get for example, alien race that doesn't see color. We look exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
and like I said, with Voltron, they did a nice job. Even though the characters, the various species that they came across, you could tell they were this particular species, but they had variations. The one, I don't want to call not the rock people. But it was the one where they came back to the planet to help them out. They had
they're sort of like rock people in a way, but not really.
Yeah, they had various different colored hair. The females had the older females had the lobed ears. The younger ones had the smaller ears. And
they did smart character design, but they still made the species look a lot like itself. They didn't vary it too much.
Species, and then say, oh yeah, these are the various different types of the species. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Thank you. And that's all. That's all I ask for a lot of times, is just give us variations. Yeah.
Well, don't treat us like we're stupid, but on the same note, there is such a thing as taking anything too far. And I've talked to some fanboys where they just want way too much from the creators. And at the end of the day, you're like, you do realize, of course, that they had to get this job done. They weren't going to spend a year doing an episode of an animated film, right?
Oh, yeah, and that's, like you said, it's fanboys and it's them, unfortunately, it's the wonderful yet beautiful yet horrible curse of the internet that now puts people in direct contact with creative content makers.
Yeah.
And I actually just finished reading some stuff yesterday about, unfortunately, there are a bunch of people who are going after the creators of Voltron.
The who of Voltron?
The creators of the new Voltron.
Why?
The usual, because they want these characters to be portrayed this way, and why are people liking these characters when these characters are absolutely, that's like they've never established an actual what characters are, but fans want to impose their own thoughts on them. It's like the usual stuff that fandoms nowadays are going through because of social media.
It's so funny, and it doesn't matter what I say because somebody's going to have an issue with anything that comes out of my mouth. So I'm just going to say what I think. Well, seriously, it's just, I'm so sick and tired of everything these days. I am. Everyone's taking everything way too personally. I'm excluding the fanboys who are the ones that keeps themselves under control and just love something for loving something. I love those guys and gals. I'm leaving them out of this. I'm talking about the people who grab their they attach their whole identities to like a freaking cartoon. I love cartoons. I love video games and comic books and movies and blah blah blah. I love this stuff, but at the end of the day, this is just a freaking cartoon. This isn't me. If somebody doesn't like Thundar the Barbarian, I'm okay with that. As a matter of fact, I've come to the conclusion that everything that I love, I need to find a criticism against it because, you know, I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but it has serious issues in spots. I love Hokuto no Ken, serious issues in spots. I happen to love Steven Universe. Strangely enough, I'm having a real tough time finding problems with it. Other than it is what it is, and if people don't like it, that's fine, because it really is kind of particular. But there's a whole lot of stuff like that where I end up going like every single thing I've drawn in my sketchbooks, easily every single show that that they came from, clearly were not perfect. Clearly, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts. There's criticisms. And then you got fanboys that want to almost freaking get into a fist fight over whether or not I liked Neon Genesis freaking Evangelion. And oh, wow, the conversations, and some of the conversations I've been in actually been very good, because they're interesting, like real conversations. But I've been in conversations about series where you talk to the person and then you go like, oh, you're, and I mean them in a very kind of broad sense. Oh, you're one of them. This isn't a conversation. I'm supposed to just agree with you. Oh, okay, well, then our conversation is over. Because it's not a conversation, it's a session where I'm supposed to agree with you. And, I mean, that's fine. You want to talk about how great something is, that's okay. But if you want to have a discussion as to what I think about something, and then you want me to not think, and you want me to simply agree with you and nod like a stupid puppet, I'm really not interested in that.
And that's,
You know, I can't do that.
well, that's pretty much society with everything nowadays. Like I said, it's the beauty of the curse of the internet and social media, which is causing people a lot of distress and anger for no apparent
For
reason.
no reason.
It's literally though. I mean, how many of those people would honestly come to like literally say the stuff they would say to your face if they met you personally? I would probably bet about probably 95% of them would not do that because they don't have the courage to do so.
I'm pretty much of the opinion that I would tell people exactly what I think. But that's what I'm saying is that's why I have a hard time talking to them.
Well, so I'm saying is like
They wouldn't be honest with me.
Wouldn't say that because it's the internet. They hide behind the internet. While like I said, you are the 5%. You and I are the 5% that pretty much anything that I say online, I will say to someone's face. But
Which is why I don't say things online that I wouldn't intend to say to somebody's face.
Exactly. It's like I have no qualms with a lot of people, but it's like but if I have something to say, I will stand behind my words no matter what they are because your words have power.
And if you put yourself into a situation where your words don't have power, that's your own damn fault.
And on top of that, it's like if you put yourself into a situation where you can't stand behind your words, then you shouldn't be saying those words in the first place.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff from the old world where you're like, we got to let a lot of this stuff go. But one of the things that I like about kind of old world thinking is like, you know, your word is your bond kind of thing. Say what you freaking mean. And there's just a lot of stuff on the internet where, and I'm not saying everybody, but too much. I will not give you a percentage. I don't know. All I know is I bump into it way too often, where it's like, oh, you don't believe that what you're typing here and what you would say in real life is there's a disconnect. They think that they can just say anything they want to.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm a big believer in the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, super important. Other half of freedom of speech, the yin to the yang on that sucker, is super simple. You better be able to defend yourself verbally, in some cases physically, depending upon what comes out of your mouth. You're free to say and think whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that you're free just to simply say and think whatever you want and then have nobody react to it. That's the part that I don't get. I'm like, you thought you wouldn't anger somebody with that? You know, you're like, really?
That seems to be what other people, they seem to forget is they like to say, I have freedom of speech, but they don't realize so do other people.
Oh yeah, it's like they think that they're just in a world by themselves. And I'm a weird hermity kind of person that really likes to stay away from people and just kind of be, you know, stay at home, quiet, write, draw, blah, 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 mind my own business. But at the end of the day, it's like, you really believe that? You know, you think you're just going to get to say whatever you want and no one's ever going to react to that? Really? I mean, that to me is such a weird kind of like, you weren't raised in the same reality I was, you know?
No, that's, and I don't want to say it's a generation thing, because I've seen people our age and older do stupid stuff like
Oh,
this.
yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, like I keep saying, I honestly believe it's the folly of the internet. It's the
it is.
anonymity. It's the not being able or not having to be responsible for what you say, because
You're not looking them in the face when you're saying it.
that, and people are going to forget about it in 15 minutes because they're going to be looking at the next shiny thing that pops up that makes them emotionally react.
The sad thing is they don't realize that there's a whole personality type, myself included, which does believe in forgiveness and letting things go and such. But we're not fools. We clearly remember things that have been said and has happened. So it's like, I'm willing to forgive and forget, but don't tell me that you didn't say things or things didn't happen because I was there, or I saw it, or I read it. It's like, I'm trying not to do these kids these days kind of thing. I really am, but
Because a lot of the kids nowadays are, once again, people our age and older who are doing the exact same thing.
Well, the thing is
Snapchat mentality. It happens, and then 15 minutes later, it's gone.
well, the thing is there's no difference between me, the AOL online generation, and the current generation. It's the same general tools. It's the same general thing. We have people today my age and notably older that are literally a part of this. It's not, to me, it's not our generation is better. It's like, no, there is no better generation. That's all bull.
I honestly, like I said, I think it's just the fact of people being more interconnected, people putting their business out, and it's unfortunately that people.
So don't share your business with me if you don't want me involved in your business.
That's it exactly. And,
you know.
And not only that, but
keep it to yourself.
We just have a lot of people, like I keep saying, a lot of hurt and angry people who are using the internet as their psychological dumping ground as opposed to possibly getting help. And
or thinking that they don't need help and trying to find people just as angry and poisonous as they are. Yeah, no, it's a shame because
Snapchat/WebMD/
kind of attached to this. I thought this was awesome. I watched a TED Talk, and I'm Namibia, or I'm not remembering the name. It's one of the African countries that I don't hear about all that often. One of the tiny ones. We have fairly large population, blah blah blah. This was one of the 4 psychiatrists in the country. It's something like 3 million to 1 ratio. So the psychiatrists there are super important because they're like the only ones. So this one was going like, he had a whole bunch of really disastrous situations where he was trying to get help to people, but numbers game. He can't get to everybody. So some bad stuff happened, and so what he figured, and this was brilliant, he was trying to find a solution. So he started training all the grandmas in all the African villages to do what grandmas do, which is basically low-level psychiatric work. And then gave them some special training and access to some apps so that they can get references or quick notes to him or whatever, and he basically turned himself into one psychiatrist, from one psychiatrist to one psychiatrist slash 3,000 grandmas. And so all these grandmas would sit out on benches, as they do, or on porches, or whatever the proper local equivalent is. And everybody would know. I believe one of them was named Grandma Jack. And so they would go up to these grandmas, and they'd be like, I got all these problems, blah, 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 well, talk to me. And it would do the grandma thing. So it's like the grandmas for everybody. And what was really neat was, and I thought this was fascinating, they ran the numbers. The grandmas per person were doing better than the high-trained psychiatrists per person. Now, but it was under these circumstances where they were giving them tools and, I mean, and this is still, I believe, in kind of like tribal Africa kind of areas. So I think they are trying to stop any of the tribal mentality, like any of these sort of spiritual superstitions. They were literally doing we need to help people with their problems. We're not going to be addressing this on a, forgive me if this is incorrect, open up a chicken and look at the organs kind of way. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. We are talking about tribal areas.
Yeah, superstitious kind of stuff.
The superstitious stuff. So legitimately trying to create real sort of... And so what they ended up with was a whole lot of people that their suicide rates went down, blah, blah, blah. And so right now they're talking about actually opening up chapters in America and other groups, because they're going like, there's a lot of little old ladies that aren't doing anything that wouldn't mind doing that work. And psychiatrists take a huge amount of time doing their work, and frankly doesn't always help. So sometimes you just need somebody there to, talk to and be, help you out. And
well, it's the takes a village to raise a child mentality. It's with psychologists, and they are needed and they are good folks, but they can only do so much.
Yeah, they can only. There's only so many of them.
With that type of mentality, or with as far as putting people of your own village, basically, or your own family unit, or your own neighborhood people. They know those folks, and so not only are they going to be able to help them out with their problems, they can help them out on a personal level because they've seen these people. They've probably seen them growing up. They probably know the families. They know the area. They know where they're coming from.
Oh yeah.
All that stuff. So
that's
a very smart thing.
And the guy even said this. He's like, because there's so few psychiatrists and because of the culture, psychiatrists are usually for rich people. And he was like, and he never got into it but he's like, just the way things work, it's like it's just the way it kind of is. And so he's going like, we need to kind of create this sort of situation where that's not sort of the defining sort of, and it's I get where he's coming from. It's like a lot of people go like, well, like healthcare for everybody. It's like, oh no, I agree with that, but that's a lot of resources. I mean, there's a reason why, kind of unfortunately, rich people get the lion's share of the stuff. They're the ones with the resources. Yep. Not to say that I agree with it, but it's like, well, until we figure out a way of fixing that, it's kind of an unfortunate reality. I mean, it pays to be rich. I mean, as dumb as that sounds, it's like it's really, really true.
Well, yeah, that's the way it has been, and we need to do something about it. And until we have accepted that basic saying as well, it is what it is. But until we
figure out a way of changing that,
we need to stop accepting that and realize that there are different ways.
And that's it exactly. But we can't just simply change without having a real alternate way of doing stuff.
Or even just going to change. We're going to change it, and not having a plan in the first place.
Yeah. Plans are super important.
Yeah, I mean that's sure grounds for failure. If you don't have a solid foundation to build upon something,
you could actually do more damage than is currently happening.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a reason why things are the way they are, is because even though they're busted, they work technically. And I mean, it's like what my dad said. He's like, my dad being kind of a classic conservative Republican type, kind of, not exactly, but kind of. And he's like, well, a lot of my conservative friends would not have a singular issue with all these changes happening if somebody could tell us how it's paid for. They actually want these things, but they're like, if we can't pay for it, how's it gonna ever change? And so that's what this dude did in Africa, is he figured out a way of making change that people were good with, that worked. And I love the grandma, kind of fix, where it's like, some of these grandmas got, frankly, nothing else better to do. Some of them might be even kind of lonely. Let them be grandmas,
Yeah, like I said, they've grown up in the community. They know and they see the people who need the help. And I mean, adding that extra layer of wisdom to their already, probably long-lived lives, that's going to help out everybody. That's not only going to help out the community, but that's going to help them out too, because it once again gives them a purpose in their life, and it gives them a chance to be able to help other people, which extends probably their life, because they're now engaging in being active and just participating once more. And I know that's one of the problems that we have here in the United States, having something like that, is unfortunately we look at old people as just being expendable, and it's just we're waiting for them to die off. And that's one of the most harsh things that I do not like about our society, is we do not treasure old wisdom. We treasure young wisdom, which is kind of an oxymoron in itself.
Well, the two need to exist side by side, because the fact is youth represents change. And the world simply is going to continue to evolve. There's no way around that. So young wisdom is valuable, but so is old wisdom. We need both. And it's like when people listen to the older generations too much, not much changes. People listen to young people too much changes. When in actuality, there needs to be sort of a balance between what stays the same and what changes, which is why I'm so sick and tired of my more conservative or more liberal friends that are like, why can't everyone be just like blank? And it's just like, you need each other. That's what is so frustrating. It's like you're not seeing it. And you're not reaping the benefits of working with people who are different than you. Just like the races need each other, because we all approach things because of our cultures and stuff from different angles. And that's what really frustrates me, when it's like, people with my skin color, blah, 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 we've messed up. So is everyone else. Doesn't mean that every single one of us is bad. Doesn't mean that every single thing that comes out of our mouth is bad. It doesn't mean that we need everybody if we're ever going to fix these problems, and
that's it exactly. We need balance. We need everyone to come together and just be united in just helping each other out. And that's we are starting to actually realize that in a sense now. And it's only taken a few hundred years. But hey, better.
And it'll take a few hundred more, and we're never going to get it right. Ever. We're never going to get it right.
But as long as we're working towards it.
But at least we're trying.
Yeah. If we are actively working towards it, that's a start. I mean, and we are in a sense doing so.
Slowly. The thing is, though, it's like all the kind of stuff we have in the United States with what's going on in politics right now. And the assumption is everybody on the right are members of the Ku Klux Klan or something. And I know that for a fact to not be true. Because some of the people that are most angry with the Klan that I know are, well-meaning, right-ended conservatives. They just don't agree with everything that the liberals want. And vice versa, and it's like, and I've known some really awful people on the left. I've known some really awful people on the right. And everybody right now wants me to join one side or the other. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I got too many cartoons to draw. I'm being real serious. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about everybody else's deep-rooted issues. It's like, I hate saying that, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
That's what the psychological grandmas are for.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. That's what I liked about that dude's solution. What was really great was, I didn't fully recognize the guy's accent, and I like African accents. And he had a really great accent, and clearly an intelligentsia kind of character. And so it's like, I'm like, and this is not being like, I can't believe they're smart Africans. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's really cool to see the intelligence class out of Africa being represented because
You don't see
we
that.
don't get to see it all that often. And this dude was like, and I mean like one of those cool brothers, like smart brother with like and he had like the tight glasses and like, you know, like, I don't want to say Bantu knot, that's not right, but he was very African / very intellectual nerd. And I was like, that is cool. You know, like, I was like, I want this dude as my neighbor. You know, like.
Yeah, like you said, that type of representation we don't get to see all that often in real
And
life.
we need to see it.
Yeah,
We
and
need,
it's-
everybody does.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad that is coming out because that needs to be shown. Because frankly, with all of the troubles that's coming out of Africa or has been coming out of Africa over the past 50 years as far as modern times,
They've had some problems.
yeah, we need to. The world needs to see that it's not all AIDS and Ebola.
Oh, it isn't. The
and-
thing is,
and-
there's
and
some
crazy-
real stuff happening
yeah.
over
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's still the problem of crazy warlords taking over, and I don't think they still ever found all of the 200 girls that were kidnapped at that one time.
And the thing is, that's not Africa. That is, what was that, Nigeria, right?
Yeah, that.
If I recall
there's
correctly.
there's a lot of problems happening in Nigeria. But the funny
But my
thing-
point being is, it's not Africa. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
country,
a
and
country.
Africa is not clearly a country. It's a continent
Yeah.
with many countries, some of which are really, really solid. You know, as a matter of fact, from what I've heard, a lot of Nigeria is an awful lot like America.
Yeah, Nigeria is actually one of the richest countries in Africa.
They just got
And-
some problems.
Yeah, and it's pretty much like it's like America, except each area is just super amplified when it comes
Yeah.
to the polarization over there.
Well,
Unfortunately,
that's
If you-
real easy to do.
Yeah.
You can't blame anyone for that.
Yeah, I mean the cities, the cityscapes and the areas that are well-to-do are absolutely beautiful, and the places are amazing, and they're really prosperous. And then unfortunately, you have the other side where you have the warmongers who went through and literally set an entire town on the people and all on fire.
And when people go like, well, America, that would never happen in America, I'm like, oh, I don't think so. I
Let me show you
think,
some history books.
let me show you the history books. Let me show you some of the stuff America has done that was just like, boom, nightmare out of nowhere. And in just a region, and like right next to them was like really awesome. You know?
But back to the fun stuff. Once again,
Well,
we go off into the
well,
tangents of
this-
the world.
I have always stated Sunday morning sketch, and people can judge me all they like. This is me time. And I'm sharing me time with everybody else out there in TV land. I'm not going to do this kind of fake. The only thing I'm really doing is I'm holding my language back a little bit, and I'm keeping our conversations a little bit more PG-13. But at the end of the day, it's like if I feel like talking about something, that's what I'm going to do here. And if the audience don't like it, to be honest, there's 8 trillion other things on the internet to look at. So
Howard, we do appreciate you watching.
no, we do, and I'm not saying screw the audience. I'm saying this is what I'm doing this because this is what I want to be doing at this moment. And you know, like how many times have we sat there and we talked about the most ridiculous stuff? And for some reason, Ookla the Mock from Thundar the Barbarian has brought up this rather kind of crazy loaded conversation. I mean, I don't know how that happened, but it did.
Exactly. We went from talking, I think it was just the talking about varying species and races and
Oh yeah, well yeah, but that's the reason why I think a lot of those TV shows, including like the Mocks, where they kept it simple because you can instantaneously take a sentence describing an alien or a monster species or whatever and turn it into a whole series of books. I mean, it takes a second's worth of expanding upon 1 or 2 things of that species, and boom, you've got yourself massive massive, unending amounts of information that could just run infinitely in all freaking
The
directions.
Star Wars books taught us that.
That's it exactly. Star Wars, the original movies were super simple. Yeah, they are. I don't care what anyone says. They're fun, but they're not. But they're not like really brilliant. We've seen it 100 times before. The only difference is the samurai are holding laser swords, and the sorcerers aren't using magic. They're using the Force. I mean, we've seen it before. You know. So you can easily just take anything. Like you say one or two additional lines about the Mox in Thundar the Barbarian in the script, and it could imply unbelievable amounts of information. You know, and so I think there's a certain amount of like wisdom with keeping it simple sometimes, where people are like, well, we really want a whole lot of more expansion. It's like, be careful when you say that, because the creators have only so much time. And you know, do you want to know more about what Captain Kirk and Spock and Bones is doing on Star Trek, or do you really want to have entire episodes just talking about the blue-skinned, white-haired suction cup people? I forget their species. They were always one of my favorites because they just stand out. You're like, it's the Smurf ones with the suction cup antenna. You give too much information on that, and suddenly, like, you're not looking at like the crew of the Enterprise anymore. You're firing off in some direction for 45 minutes, and it's like, I watch Star Trek for the characters on the ship, you know. So I think there's a reason why they didn't go too far into, you know, and classically don't, like why all the aliens on a planet look the same.
Yeah.
You know, because that's a lot of writing right there.
Exactly, and like you said, the focus most of the time is not on those characters; it's on our heroes.
Yeah,
So
that's it exactly.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't make sense to tangent off these guys unless there's going to be a focus onto those guys at some point or not.
Unless there's a real plot reason
Yeah.
to do so. Yeah, absolutely.
So other than that, yeah, I understand. I always just found it funny. It's like,
And it is funny.
yeah, like,
you know.
yeah, just like you just.
It's a
you
real
just see-
criticism.
Yeah, and I'm guessing also when it comes to animation and movie wise, it saves a lot of money because you don't have to
that
make
too.
variances. You just basically just make the same mask or make the same frame.
Oh,
over and
absolutely.
over. Little slight variances. You move the frame down a couple, like an inch and a half or so to make the shorter ones, or move it up inch and a half to make the taller ones, and then you just copy, and that's pretty much your crowd.
Well, I mean, and you even go to like big budget stuff like Independence Day. You know, old big budget, but that's a really good one because they built a massive mothership out in space. They built a singular invasion city destroyer ship. They built one fighter, and they built one alien. All that tens of thousands of stuff consisted of like 4 or 5 things.
Yeah.
And if it was like, no, we should show a sub-religious class inside the invading aliens that are, you know, political, blah, 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 yada, yada. Suddenly Will Smith ain't kicking a dude in the desert screaming, I could have been at a barbecue! It suddenly got so complex you didn't get that funny freaking scene because I see why they keep it simple. There's not a mystery to me. You know, I mean, it's just when that's all you do, you know?
Like that, and also when you look at that too, it's a lot easier. I mean, Starship Troopers, of course.
Oh,
is another
that's a
great
really good example, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to be terrified of giant mass hordes coming at you, brainless hordes, as opposed to.
A group of individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, to me, once again, anyone can have their own opinion. One of my favorite action sci-fi scenes of all time, and I've got a number of them. And Starship Troopers, it could have been a better movie. There's no doubt there.
It was so much fun.
It was. It was infinitely more fun than many sci-fi movies, but it could have simply been a better movie. I've read the book, and I can see why it turned out the way it did. But is that scene when they come over the edge of the one fort, and there's nothing but a sea of insects coming at them. And if they were all different and stuff, it would have been like, but they just formed like a carpet of violence flowing. And I'm like, oh, and they got the big, and it just exploded into fire and massive sounds, and screams and goo squirting. And it's part of that horror was the creatures were all the same creature. That's why, that was part of the, you're just like, oh, you can't even tell where one begins and the other ends, and you're like, and just chomping and squirting and blood, and God, love that. Now, the rest of the movie could have been better. Loved that battle. That battle to this day, I'm still going like, can I just have that battle? I'll put it in a loop, and when I'm in a bad mood, somebody goes, dude, it's that battle! And I'd be like, ah, but it's not brilliant. It was never intended to be brilliant. It was fun, and...
Carpet of Violence was the name of my high school band.
It was also my nickname in kindergarten. After snack time, watch out for Carpet of Violence. He has too much energy. Actually, Carpet of Violence is a rather nice phrase. I might have to keep that one.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, no, What now?
So, didn't they open up for Cradle of Filth?
I think they did open up for Cradle of Filth.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, what really can be said after all that, honestly? How long have we been going, sweetie?
We have been going for 51 minutes and 10, 11, 12 seconds.
Okay, good. Well, that gives me a chance to clean up here. I'm not like super happy with this, but I'm also not disappointed either. I think I got some stuff about right, but I think if I come back and do him again, I'm gonna maybe do some changes or some stuff here that I like and some stuff I don't like. Yeah, it's really funny. As a matter of fact, you know what? I actually haven't quite finished the book Starship Troopers yet. I kind of put it on pause because I hate to say this. As interesting as it is just dull. They literally have moments where they're like, all right, we're going to drop down onto this bug planet, and this is actually stuff that's in the book, and we're going to take our psychic, highly evolved dogs with their psychic keepers, and the robot, and the giant robot battle suits with the micro nukes on it, and we're going to now skip that scene. We're going to now talk about military politics. Oh, are you kidding me? It would be along the lines of you're watching the movie Starship Troopers, instead of doing the Battle of Clondethu, you suddenly got like a documentary on like military logistics. It was infuriating in spots. I'm going to get back to it because when it was good, it was really good. But they literally keep talking about psychic dogs in combat, and then do jack with it. They've never actually shown it. They're like, oh, by the way, psychic dogs in combat, and blah, 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 and how interesting and psychological. They get attached to their masters, and blah, 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 yada, yada. Oh, by the way, that's all you get to know about it. We're going to tell you about it, but we're never going to actually show, like, psychics in combat with psychic evolved dogs in combat against giant insects. We're just not going to do that. And I'm like, I'm going to have a whole lot of people like now judging me. Oh, you didn't like Starship? I'm not saying I didn't like Starship Troopers. I'm saying I saw why the movie turned out the way it did. The zero mystery to me. I'm like totally going like, oh, that makes sense. It's super dry, super dry.
Brendan says he thinks the drawing looks awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's not bad. It's one of those things where you end up going like, I got a little bit of a success there, but on the same note, there's something about it I'm just not totally grooving with yet, which is fine. I mean, that just simply happens. I'll probably, after some soul searching up in a mountain or something, I'll come back after years of solitude and, I don't know, I guess whipping myself with vines to cause some kind of a spiritual delusion. I'll come back, and I'll figure out what I did wrong with Ookla the Mock. At the moment, though, I'm kind of happy with it, but there's something about it. I think it's something in the hair or something. I think I made his hair too fabulous. I might have made his hair too fabulous. Let me get rid of some of that fabulous mock hair by L'Oreal here.
He's beautiful, dang it.
You shall look upon the mock and feel inferior in the ways of beauty. You are ugly by comparison to Ookla. He is a gorgeous mock. His hair flows in the wind. He sounds like the gorgeous sounds of birds in the springtime.
And his hair was like, it's like golden honey. Violent golden honey.
Violent golden honey. The violence of the mock's hair is both beautiful and disturbing. Yeah, I'm gonna give him slightly more lion eyes. I think maybe that's what I feel the need to do. Glorious Mock Hair by L'Oreal.
Maybe she's born with it. Trissamach.
What now?
So instead of Trissamach, Trissamach.
Trissamach, yeah. Yeah, still not quite right, but I feel the need to eat toast. I am hungry. Toast!
Yeah,
all right.
toast!
Hey, we miss you too, man. We will catch everyone later. Oh wait, I gotta share this. This is going to be glorious. Look at the glorious hair. Look at the glorious hair. Now slowly the two come together.
Make them kiss.
We're gonna get a Beauty and the Beast moment. We're gonna. There we go. There's some glory right there. Some glorious. Got some sweet mock lovin'. All right. Sweet mock lovin'. Check it and say. Got a fever of 103. All right. Got some mock lovin'. Some mock lovin'. All right. All right, everyone have yourself a good week.
Thank you for joining us.
Yep. And I will catch y'all later.